Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. This video is about getting a business back on track. If you're concerned that your company is stumbling a little bit and you're not sure why, this presents a way to keep track of things, to be able to look at the big picture of how your company is doing instead of relying on your gut feelings, your instincts. So it's based on KPIs, key performance indicators. A key performance indicator keeps track of one of the moving parts of your business. All businesses have lots of moving parts. So this is a way to identify things in your company that you'd like to monitor. And a key performance indicator like the number of sales in the current period, the number of leads that you got from your marketing in the current period, the employee turnover in the recent period. Those are key performance indicators that you can keep an eye on. And if you don't set key performance indicator goals, you're sort of flying blind. If you've had your company for a while, you can slip into this mode of thinking that you're aware of everything. And the reality is most companies have lots of moving parts. So it's important to identify, say, the top most important things, the top 10 things, for example, and to keep track of all of them on a regular basis so that you can take corrective action. As an example, let's say you'd identify things like profit, accounts receivable, the number of leads from the marketing, those key metrics for this current period. Let's say you have those in front of you and you could compare those to the past 4 quarters. You could see if things are improving or getting worse or staying the same. And that's kind of the idea. Key performance indicator and being able to compare to past periods gives you an early warning. If the KPI drops, then you know you need to take some corrective action. As an example, if you're losing customers, if customer churn is increasing, you really need to get on top of that. And if you're staying on top of it, if you're tracking it on a regular basis, you can take corrective action more quickly. So there's a couple things about all businesses. Anything measured can be compared. So if you have key performance indicators, you can compare them over time to past periods, weeks, months, past quarter, past year. And then if you're measuring things, you can improve them, right? So that's kind of the idea with if you have a business that's stumbling, you need to set up key performance indicators and start recording them and start tracking them. So here are some example key performance indicators. Cash flow. Cash flow is the amount of cash in minus the cash out. And you would need to set up a period that's relevant for your company. It could be a weekly cash flow number, could be a quarterly or a monthly cash flow number. In some businesses, it could be daily. So cash flow is the cash in to the company minus the cash out for paying expenses and things. So cash flow needs to be positive at all times. If you've got a KPI, a key performance indicator for cash flow, and you're tracking it, you can know right away if cash flow is negative. That's a pretty important thing because negative cash flow it creates problems. Another key performance indicator you can track, the number of customer leads that convert to buying customers. The number of customers who respond to your marketing who then buy something. Another KPI, the cost to acquire one new customer. And that's pretty easy. It's the amount of money that you spend on marketing divided by the number of customers who buy something. And this is going to be for that period that makes sense for your business. A weekly number, a monthly number, a quarterly number. You can then compare it to the past 4 quarters and you can get a sense of whether your business is declining, staying the same, or improving. Another key performance indicator, your churn, the number of customers you've lost. The top line revenue, how is that doing compared to past quarters, for example? And the profit. Another key performance indicator, employee turnover. If that's increasing and you don't want it to increase, then you have a morale problem or you have a bad manager or something in the company. Inventory, a key performance indicator that keeps track of inventory. Your money in the company is tied up in your inventory, and if it's sitting there and not being sold, it's kind of useless. So you've got money invested in the inventory that's not productive. Accounts receivable is a big one. This is a very important key performance indicator. If you did nothing else besides accounts receivable and cash flow, accounts receivable is the amount of cash tied up in customers who have not paid yet. In other words, if you're a service company and you delivered a service to someone and they haven't paid, they should be in your accounting books as an account receivable. They haven't paid yet. So your cash flow is tied up in your accounts receivable. So if you have cash out, if you have expenses to pay, and you're not getting the cash in from your customers, that can drive your cash flow negative. So you really need to track your accounts receivable to make sure that doesn't happen. Another thing businesses should track, customer surveys. Not all companies do this, but a lot of companies are running customer surveys. I've noticed lately that the banks we use and the credit unions we use They seem to be wanting to use customer surveys. If you're trying to figure out if your business is not doing well, asking customers what's going on is one way to do it. Customer surveys. And then employee surveys. Do you have morale problems? If you have high turnover in your company and you don't want that, you can run employee surveys to figure out if there's a morale problem or a bad manager. And it's always important to take these key performance indicators and compare them to the prior period, past week or the past month, the past quarter, the past year. And that way you'll know, is your business up or down or staying the same? So key performance indicators, instead of shooting from the hip and guessing how your company is doing, you really want to be able to look at the big picture. If you had sort of a dashboard set up with all your key performance indicators, for example, if you had on your phone a dashboard that showed all the key performance indicators that you wanted to track, you could pull up the phone at any time and bam, you know the big picture. So no more relying on your gut instinct that the business is stumbling. So there's some things I couldn't fit on the board. So here's how to track KPIs that you've set. First of all, there's data entry. You've got to identify some person in the company and assign them the task of recording the key performance indicator they're responsible for. As an example, accounts receivable. Someone in bookkeeping or accounting needs to do a data entry for what the accounts receivable are currently. That could be weekly, monthly, quarterly, could be daily in some companies. Customers who have not paid, someone in the company knows, right? And you just need to assign them as part of their job duty. They have a responsibility to enter the current number for the accounts receivable. And then data entry software, there is data entry software that's designed to track KPIs. One example, there's a company called Tableau Software. It's spelled Tableau, www.tableau.com. And so if you use that software, everyone in the company who is responsible for tracking, measuring, and doing the data entry for one key performance indicator would use that software to enter the number. And then you would have a dashboard on your phone you can pull up at any time and you can know what's going on in the company. And one of the things you should do with your KPIs is benchmark them to what is normal for your company, for your industry. You can compare your company to the industry normal values to know if, for example, if you've got higher than normal employee turnover, you need to be able to hold on to good employees. If you've got turnover of good employees compared to industry standards, then you have a problem you have to fix there. So, there should be a schedule. Once you identify who in the company has to do the data entry for one key performance indicator, they should be on a schedule that they have to do it. Not every once in a while, not when they feel like it, but here is the day on which part of your job responsibility requires you to do a data entry for this key performance indicator. The accounts receivable number, as an example, that should be reported by that employee on a regular schedule. So and I'll leave you with this one. This one idea, I've actually seen this in action. One key performance indicator that's sort of an absolute must, your bank balances. You should have bank balance reporting, I would argue, daily. Because if there's something wrong with your bank balance and you let it go for a week, you can have some serious issues. Because if there's embezzling, I've seen that in action. A doctor friend of mine had an employee who was embezzling. If you're not tracking your bank balances as a key performance indicator on a daily basis, it's like every morning, the first thing you do, you bust out your phone, you pull up your dashboard. What are my bank balances? How do they compare to yesterday? How do they compare to last week? How do they compare to last month? You can catch somebody who's embezzling. In this particular doctor's case, this employee apparently got away with a fair amount of payments from patients of this doctor because he went around to all of his patients with an accounting log to find out which customers had paid. And it turned out that a lot of his customers had paid and he had not received the money. He fired that employee, but the employee was embezzling from him and he was not checking. You need to check your bank balances as a key performance indicator. And if you have a software data entry and it's not being updated, and the important part of this is to have a neutral third party, if possible, looking at those balances and reporting them, because The person responsible for receiving payments from customers should not be the one reporting the bank balances, because they're the ones most closest to the customer. It's easiest for them to take the money and not deposit it in the bank. So just some things to think about. But the overall idea is, instead of shooting from the hip, if you have a sense of unease that your business is stumbling, if you have a dashboard on your phone with key performance indicators, bam, you can get on top of problems right away and set about trying to fix things. So that's kind of the idea with key performance indicators. If you have any questions about any of this, I'd be happy to help. I really want to thank everyone for watching. Have a great day.